August 12, 2025, a Russian convoy carrying about 50 tons of ammunition moved into a refueling stop. But only minutes later, two first-person view suicide drones surged forward at nearly 125 miles per hour, like deadly arrows piercing straight toward the trucks. Two strikes in less than 5 minutes, and the entire stockpile erupted. The blast could be seen from more than 12 miles away. This was not just a raid. This was the moment the rear lines turned into the front line. At 10 a.m., August 12, 2025, from a makeshift launch site near Svatov, on the outskirts of Starobilsk in Luhansk, two first-person view suicide drones of Ukraine's 14th Tactical UAV Regiment entered their final checks before a strategic strike. 15 minutes earlier, a modified DJI Mavic 3 had been launched. It acted as the scout, capturing infrared images, transmitting real-time data to the command post, and guiding the two attack drones toward their targets. The target, 5 Russian Ural trucks loaded with ammunition, moving toward the improvised relay hub, Idar-17, on the north bank of the Idar River. Their mission was to deliver over 50 tons of artillery shells and rockets, enough to increase Russian fire density to levels that could threaten Ukraine's supply routes, staging areas, river crossings, and forward medical stations. But Ukraine would not allow that to happen. For days, the 14th Regiment, working with intelligence networks, had tracked the convoy, marking refueling times, crew habits, and combining UAV imagery with electronic reconnaissance to pinpoint the moment the trucks would have to halt for inspection and refueling near Starobilsk. The location lay outside the umbrella of fixed air defenses. No radar, no missiles, no electronic warfare teams. At 10:02 a.m., from 9 miles out, the Mavic 3 streamed encrypted real-time video back to the field command post. On screen, the 5 engines glowed as distinct heat signatures. To Ukrainian eyes, it was a perfect cluster target. A single precise strike could set off a chain reaction, wiping out the entire convoy in under a minute. No further confirmation was needed. Signal encrypted. Coordinates locked. Immediately, the 2 FPV drones launched. In the initial phase, they used GPS combined with inertial navigation, flying low at an average 35 to 50 feet to evade ground radar or low-frequency surveillance. Cruise speed was held steady at 80 miles per hour, fast enough to shorten the flight time, yet slow enough for the operator to maintain pinpoint control. At 2 miles out, the drone's optical cameras acquired the target. 5 military trucks parked with 20 to 25-foot spacing, all facing south. Several soldiers walked nearby, but there was no sign of guard posts or improvised defenses. Just as intelligence suggested, this was treated as a short, safe stop. Each drone carried a PG-7VL-shaped charge warhead, weighing 5.5 to 6.5 pounds, fitted with an 85mm copper liner. Inside was 1.5 to 2 pounds of OK-Fol explosive, equivalent in power to high-grade TNT. Upon detonation, it produced a focused jet exceeding 32,800 feet per second, enough to pierce 0.6 inches of truck steel plating.
The night was unusually still on the Ukrainian steppe. A vast silence stretched across the fields, broken only by the faint rustle of dry grass swaying under the cold wind. For days, intelligence reports had spoken of a Russian ammunition convoy moving south, hauling truckloads of shells, rockets, and fuel to replenish frontline units. But the Ukrainians had decided, this convoy would never reach its destination. Inside a darkened command post, lit only by dim red lamps, Ukrainian officers bent over a map scattered with markers. Every line, every arrow traced across it wasn't just ink on paper, it was fate, carefully designed to catch their enemy in a steel trap. Colonel Dmitro, a hardened veteran of battles stretching back to the early days of the invasion, stood at the center. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned every detail. "They will move through here," he said, pointing to a narrow stretch of road running between two wooded areas. It's the only route wide enough for a convoy this size. We let them in deep. Once they're boxed in, we close the jaws. The officers nodded silently. They all knew what this meant. The Russians were carrying thousands of artillery shells, the very weapons that had pounded Ukrainian cities, killing civilians, leveling homes, and leaving scars that might never heal. Tonight, Ukraine would take its revenge. The waiting game. The Ukrainian ambush force moved under cover of night, positioning themselves with deliberate precision. Anti-tank teams crept through the forest, dragging launchers and javelin missiles on their shoulders. Drone operators unfurled camouflage nets, hiding launch pads in tall grass. Hidden artillery batteries adjusted their coordinates, waiting for a signal that would unleash fire from the sky. But most important of all was patience. The Ukrainians had to wait until the convoy was fully inside the kill zone. Strike too early, and some trucks might escape. Strike too late, and the Russians might detect the ambush. Every soldier understood this tension. Lying flat in the dirt, rifles at the ready, they listened to the night, their nerves stretched thin. Some prayed. Others simply clenched their jaws, determined to see it through. Hours passed. The only sound was the chirping of crickets and the distant rumble of artillery far away at another sector. Then, finally, it came. At first, it was a faint vibration, a dull hum on the horizon. The ground itself seemed to shiver. Then headlights pierced the night, beams cutting through dust. The Russians were coming. The convoy. Dozens of trucks rolled into view, heavy with ammunition. Covered with canvas tarps, their cargo was obvious, crates stacked high, filled with rockets, grenades, and shells. Each vehicle was a lifeline for Russia's war machine, and each was now driving straight into a death trap. At the head of the convoy, an armored personnel carrier rolled forward cautiously, its mounted guns swiveling back and forth.